What is up, guys, and welcome back to another video of your favorite real estate investment channel. So today we're going to be talking about three topics. It's going to be the three tips for first-time real estate investors. And first, I'm going to give you an overview of what those are, and then we're going to go in depth into what each of those topics entail. So stay until the end because it is going to be very, very good for you guys and it's going to help you grow a lot. So starting off, there are three main topics are research and education, it's financial preparation, and then comes start small and scaling wisely. So what does research and education entail? What is the financial preparation? What is involved with financial preparation? What do you guys have to do to prepare financially? Can you guys even prepare financially to become investors? And then starting small. Why do you guys have to start small? Why do you guys have to scale slowly, painfully, gruelfully? Do you guys really have to go through all of that painful, grueling process, or is there an easier way for you guys to scale? So all of this and a lot more is what we're going to be talking about today. So getting started is research and education. I think that for everything and anything that we do, the basis is research and education. If we do not know how to tie our shoes, we're not going to know how to tie our shoes. So the first step to tying our shoes is going to be, well, researching how we do that, how do we tie a knot, and then researching, educating ourselves, and then taking it into practice. So the same thing applies here in real estate. So for that, we need to understand the basics. And the basics are understanding the overview of what real estate investing is. So in layman terms, real estate investing is placing our money to grow and make us more money in the mechanism of real estate. In other words, properties, land, or whatever mechanism of real estate. So for that, we must also understand what are the different types of real estate investments. So to break this down into bite sizes that are easy to understand, let's get started with the different types of real estate. So there's residential and then there's commercial. Within both sides of the real estate, both the residential and commercial, you guys can come in as investors. Why? Because there's a lot of ways for you guys to invest in real estate. And if we go ahead and take this into further detail, we can invest, and these are the real estate investment categories, or categories, I should say, which are short-term rentals, long-term rentals. There is fixing and flipping. There is buying, fixing, and renting. There is developments. There is lending. There is joint ventures. So all of these are mechanisms in which you guys can go ahead and get investing in real estate. So for us to go ahead and identify the best real estate investment mechanism for you guys is by understanding what are your goals, what is the things that you guys want to achieve, and understanding what are your fortes, what qualities do you guys have, because each separate and different real estate investment mechanism is gonna go better with you based on your background, your experiences, and your knowledge. So the different types of real estate investments, once we break it down into those different categories, we can go even further. Because if we go into residential, there's multifamily, there are single family. So those are basically the two big components. And then if we go even further, there's traditional residential, there's high-end or luxury residential properties, and then there's also low-end residential properties. So if you go into the low end and you want to become an investor, so there are places which are going to give you credits or benefits for you to invest into the development of low income housing. You might want to do this if you want to develop houses for people who cannot afford high, fancy, expensive houses, or houses for the medium income people. And if we go into the rental space, then there's Section 8 rentals, which are government subsidized housing where the government is going to pay you for the rentals that you place on that project. So it's really good. It's really nice because it takes out a lot of the burden. It takes out a lot of the uncertainty of whether my money is going to be coming in or not. Now, if we go into the traditional, regular residential real estate space, there is single family, there's multifamily, just as there is for low end and high end properties. And you can either come in as a developer, you can come in as an investor who purchases properties and then just rents them out. So there's a lot of ways that you guys can go about this, and it's very similar to renting for a low income person. The main difference is that the person who's going to be coming into renting your house is going to be somebody who's going to be paying for themselves. So if they stop earning money, the rentals will, possibly stop coming in, or the income from the rentals. So it is slightly different, but it is another good mechanism way for you guys to invest in real estate. And just as there is the rentals for the regular and low end, there's a rentals for high end property. So you could purchase a multi-million-dollar property and rent it out for a couple $1,000s a month, tens of thousands of dollars a month, depending on how expensive is your neighborhood and understanding how the economy works in that area where you guys are situated. And then we go into commercial, which is a whole other monster, because then there's warehouses, there's offices, there's different types of offices, so there's different types of shopping centers. So understanding the different types of commercial real estate spaces is going to be crucial to understanding what commercial real estate mechanism is best suited for you. So we're going to leave that for another video because that will just take up way too much time. And as soon as we have it ready, we're going to go ahead and link it right down in the video in the comments below so that you guys have quick access to understanding all of the commercial spaces available and that you guys can go ahead and invest in. So now that we understand a lot better what are the different mechanisms of investing in real estate, we must also understand that part of our research and part of our education comes from market research. So the importance of market research is understanding that if we want to make money, we need to be properly educated. If I go sell water on a water plant, it is very unlikely that I'm going to be able to sell to any of the workers water because there's abundance of water. Now, if I go to the middle of the desert, it's also going to be very hard for me to find a customer because, there's probably not going to be anybody around to purchase any real estate or any bottles of water. So we need to go to some place where there's enough people that there can be some people thirsty, yet, and possibly even some competition, yet enough people to purchase from me. So the same thing applies to real estate. So if we want to go ahead and become a developer, or we want to become a landlord, because the analogy is going to be the same, we need to make sure that there's people that need what we want to supply. What that means is, if I want to go ahead and develop, I need to make sure that there's people actually looking to purchase residential property or commercial property, whether it be either or. And if I want to go ahead and become a landlord, I better make sure that there's people in need of rental properties so that I can go ahead and offer the properties that I have for them to lease. So understanding the market is going to be very, very important because, if I also want to supply 100 rental units, which is rarely the case for somebody starting out, and the demand is only 5 rental units, then I'm going to be 95 rental units short, which in turn means that I'm going to be losing money on 95 units. So I'm not going to be able to cover my expenses with the income I'll be generating, making me become an unprofitable business. Whereas if I go into a market where there's 5,000 people looking to rent those properties and I can create 100 rental units, then that is going to set me up a lot better for success, because we need to be mindful that we're not the only person in the market or in competition looking to make some money from real estate investment. So taking into account that there's probably going to be a handful of other real estate investors, let's say that they can in all provide 1,000 rental units, and I can provide 100 rental units, and the demand is 5,000 rental units, then there's still going to be a shortage of rental housing. So that is a good market for us to go in, because even if a big investor comes in and they try to take a larger portion of the market, I'm still going to be able to retain a lot of my clients, a lot of my tenants. And even if a big competitor comes into the market, I should still have some wiggle room as to not lose market, given that they could possibly bring 1,000 rental units. They can probably give a much larger discount on their properties than I, as a much smaller landlord with 100 units, could possibly give. So that is a very important factor to look at. What is the demand and what is the supply for the market, and what is the competition being able to supply? So another very important thing when we look at either rentals or flipping or development or whatever mechanism is, what are the market trends? What are the market trends saying? What are the people looking to get into? Are people looking more to purchase, or are they looking more to rent? And what are the trending decorations? What are the trending colors and the properties? What are the trends? Because that's really gonna set you up for success. If you try to supply, if the trend is for people to just come in for a few months at a time and then bounce, that looks a lot more like a rental market. Whereas if people like to come to your city and they tend to create roots and establish themselves, that looks a lot more like a developer's market. Now, there can be a lot of renters in the developers markets, and there can be a lot of developments in rental markets. So we need to be mindful of that. And then to make the trends and the opportunities a lot more in depth, well, we got to look at what are people looking to get into. Are people looking to get into white cabinets, or are they looking to get into brown cabinets on the kitchen? Is the darker colors more trendy, or are the lighter colors a lot more trendy? Those are some of the things that we need to be very mindful of, because those are going to help us acquire and retain a lot more of the people into our properties. Some other trends could be things like pools or spas or saunas. Or pickleball courts. Right now, pickleball is a huge thing. So, if I have a pickleball in my development project, or if I have pickleball on my rental project, I am much more likely to attract the higher end market, which is the market that at this time, 2024, is looking to play pickleball. Then, that is a huge plus for my tenants. So that's what we mean with market trends and market research. So, as an educational source, there's a huge list of amazing books. I'm going to list a few of them on the description, which are amazing. There's a few podcasts like the Bigger Pockets podcast, which is also fantastic. Um, and those are some great ways for you guys to get a lot of additional knowledge. And I'll be consistently posting on here for you guys to keep on learning. And one of the great things about education is that you should not get your information from one single source but from multiple sources. That way you guys get to challenge your information. And by challenging your information means if XYZ says one thing and then CYX says another thing, how do I know who's giving me the right information? How do I know that the information I'm getting is high value information? So I need to challenge that information using my common judgment and using my mindset to understand which is the right information. And sometimes it might require some research and going on Google, going into books, going into podcasts, going and meeting up with other real estate investors and just challenging the information and being curious and asking questions. That is going to be a great way for you guys to expand your knowledge. So, and if there is a lot of successful investors or even a few investors, there might be community groups, real estate investor association, real estate investor meetups or groups. And if there's none in your local market, Facebook has, a ton of groups for real estate investors where you can just go on there and network with them. For me, someone I learned a lot from, and I did learn a lot when I was, starting out, was Donald Trump, even before he was on his presidency. Why? Because he left a series of books which are a great way for anybody who's looking to get started into the real estate game to have a pathway. If you don't have access to any real estate investment schools or anything, then they really set the tone and the mindset for a successful real estate investor. So that really concludes the research and education. Now we're going to be transitioning more into the financial preparation. And this is a very important thing, and I think it's very crucial because sometimes when we get started investing in real estate, we don't really set realistic investment goals. We say, I want to be a millionaire in a year, I want to be a millionaire in 2 years. And real estate isn't a place where you're necessarily going to become a millionaire in a year or two. I mean, it is possible if you have the right tools, if you have the right education, if you have the right mindset, if you have the right contacts, if you place in the right amount of work. And if you're very mindful and very strategic on what you're doing. However, for most people, it's going to take a couple years. Now, real estate isn't a place where, and even though it might take a couple years, it is a place where if you're consistent, you will for sure become a millionaire. You're going to be rich. You're going to become financially successful. You're going to be financially free as long as you are financially responsible. So that is the key, being financially responsible. Because, if you get to make 100 grand a year and you spend 150 grand a year by taking out loans and borrowing money, and doing stupid shit, then you're definitely not gonna become rich. But if you make 100 grand a year and then you spend $12,000 a year, 20,000, 50,000, you're gonna become rich. And by buying assets that appreciate in time, appreciate in value, and give you cash flows, that is the secret to wealth. So the first thing is budgeting and financial planning. So, budgeting is one of the most dreaded things by every single human being because nobody likes to feel the constraint of having a budget. But the truth is that budgets actually give you freedom because now you know exactly how much money you're getting in, how much money you need to invest to get to your goal, and you're going to be able to understand how much time is it going to take you to get to that goal. And by reverse engineering how big your goal is, you're going to be able to take shortcuts by knowing what you need to cut off or what things you could do to increase your income and then get to your goal faster. So in a sense, creating budgets will give you freedom. And setting realistic investment goals is going to allow for your mindset and for your success to grow further. Because if I say, I want to purchase tomorrow, I just want to go into the market and find 10 amazing properties that will be cash flowing me $10,000 a month each. That's very highly unrealistic for most people. Unless you have a big pockets full of cash, or you have heavy investors backing you, you're not going to be able to do that. However, if my goal is, this year I want to buy a property, is that realistic for me? I'll go into the market, I'll see what are the prices, I'll see what are the requirements for me to go ahead and actually purchase those properties. And then does my budget, does my personal finances allow for me to actually go ahead and purchase my first property, or my 10th or my 20th or my 100th? That's going to allow us budgeting and setting up the financial plans. And we're going to be talking about what the requirements for financing, for cash purchases, for all of that in most states are in another separate video. So as soon as we record that and we have that up and running, we'll go ahead and let it linked down in the description below, so you guys can go ahead and have easy access to that, so you guys can understand what does financing entail, what does the preparation in detail really entail. So another part of the budget and financial planning is creating a real estate investment budget. If you do not have a real estate investment budget, all of your money is going to go into other stuff. You need to set your priorities straight, because if investing is not a priority, it's just going to go ahead and keep on falling behind and behind and behind, and you're never going to end up doing it. So another part of the financial preparation is the financing options. So you're going to have to go ahead and explore the mortgage options that are going to be available for you. And that's going to be very state dependent, although most loan options are very much the same throughout the US and Puerto Rico. But you need to go ahead and do your research. There's no other ways around it. And I'm going to be linking the video explaining the different types of financial loan options in the next video. So be sure to check that out, because that's going to help you guys understand how this FHA, conventional, VA loans, non-conforming, conforming loans, how does USDA or rural loans work? What's a conventional loan? What's an FHA loan? How does each one benefit me more than another? Which loan should I use first, and why? Why is there some loan types I can only use once? So understanding financing is going to be very important. Now, if we go into the commercial side, we need to understand what is debt to income ratio. We need to understand what is debt service coverage ratio. We need to understand what is the down payment requirement. We need to understand what is a bid down. We need to understand what the heck is the commercial guidelines. So that's going to be a whole separate video for you guys to actually go ahead and understand all of that. So not only that, but there's also creating financing strategies. So if we want to be successful real estate investors, we cannot stay with just the traditional financing options. One of the first investments I did fully by myself, that I was managing, raised the money and everything, I did it in a very creative way. So most of my money, half of my money at that time, was tied up in other real estate investments that I lent my money to other real estate investors. And for that particular investment, I managed to place a property under contract using a credit card. And I went onto the market and I found some investors, which were relatives of mine, and I explained to them the project. I placed the property as a collateral, including the money that I had already placed into the property as escrowing it with a credit card. And I asked the relatives of mine to lend me half of the money, which is what I was missing to go ahead and do the project. Now, I could have gone to friends, I could have gone to other people. Definitely starting with your sphere of influence is going to be much better, and then just panning out to people further away from you because the closer you are to someone, the more influence that you tend to have. So doing that allowed me to go ahead and purchase that property using credit cards, personal loans from other private investors. I gave them an 8% return on investment per year. So that, and with a minimum of an 8%. So if I did the investment in less than a year, they would still get the 8%. If I took more than a year, then I would just give them an 8% per year that I took doing the investment. So that was a fix and flip, and it was a very profitable project for me because I was able to earn close to 60% on the money invested after taking out all of the expenses that I had. So, I went onto the market, I identified a property, identified a need, I identified potential people to help me out and partner up with, and I was able to execute. The investors were able to get an 8% return on the investment, whereas their money was growing at a 2% return on investment in the bank, and their traditional accounts were yielding even less than that. So I was able to provide them a lot of value, and I was able to cash in on close to 60% return on investment on all the money that I placed, plus what the investors placed. So definitely creative investments are really, really important. So, and just as part of the financial planning is the credit management, and the importance of a good credit score is always important. Even to this day, the credit score is used in some companies for hiring purposes. And the reason for that is the credit score is going to measure you on how good are you at managing your finances and managing your budgets and being truthful to what you say you're going to do, on being truthful to your commitment. So that's why investors will oftentimes require for you to provide information on your credit score or your credit profile. And if you seriously go to request for money from other investors, having a good solid profile on your credit score is going to look really nice because they're going to be able to see that you're a good payee, and that just builds trust with investors. So if you have a bad credit history, one of the best things that you guys can do is educate yourself on good, successful credit management tools, tips, and tricks, good habits and managing the credit profile that you have, and just going ahead and hiring someone to help fix any of the badges and ugly things that you guys might have on the credit profile, and just making sure that you guys don't fall into that again, because there's no reason for you guys to fix it if you're going to be doing the same thing again and again. And lastly, the third tip for the day, which is broken down into 3 parts, is start small and scale wisely. So the advantages of beginning with a small investment is that you're going to be able to manage it a lot better than a big investment. Some of my students have gone ahead and they try to tackle a project much bigger than they mindfully or experientially could tackle, just because they have access to the funds, but they still don't have the right mindset and they still don't have the right tools to go ahead and tackle those projects. And then those bigger projects will start chopping away and eating away of your profits, because you need to have a balance between doing the things the right way and doing things quickly. So if you go too quickly, your quality of your investment, it's probably going to go down. And if your quality of your investment goes up way too high, then you might end up taking a long time and possibly even never pulling the trigger on doing the investment. So you need to find a balance. And the best way for you to do that is taking projects that are either at the very point that you can handle them, or 10% over what you are sure that you can handle. These are just some random numbers I'm saying, because you need to make sure you can handle it. If you cannot handle it, you're going to go broke. So no use in going broke, because we're here to make money and provide a true service and true value to the market. And mitigating risk in the initial ventures. If you do not mitigate your risks, you're bound to make mistakes and you're bound to make money. So mitigating risks means not using more money than you should, not over leveraging yourself, not going into areas which are too outside of your expertise. Right now, if I go into the medical investment field, that's something I know absolutely nothing about. So I'm not going to know anything about the filters. I'm not going to know anything about anything else that's required for medical facilities. That's where I need to either partner up with other people who know how to do it or let myself be guided by someone who's already done it. So that is why it's so important to understand what you're getting into. Right now, if I go into hotel development with golf courses, I know nothing about golf courses other than I'm learning how to golf. But I'm not experienced with what do experienced real estate, what do experienced golfers look for. So that's not something wise for me to go into. However, if I go into multifamily property and flipping, that is something I have plenty of experience in. So I will be able to execute successfully. Now, that does not mean I cannot go into hotel developments because that is something I'm doing. It just means I need to partner up with other people who've done it in the past, who've gone through that route, so that I can be successful when the time comes for me to do that. And so then comes building a diversified portfolio. Because if all of your eggs are in one single pocket, there's oftentimes a higher risk for something to go wrong. And at the same time, it can also go really well. But you need to understand your market. And diversifying your portfolio is a good way to mitigate risk. So if you own multifamily, if you own commercial, if you own Section 8, if you own luxury, it is very good for you to specialize in one single market, but it's also good to, as you grow, look into other things so that if, let's say, that the retail market has a collapse because there's not that many more people going into retail, there's a lot of vacancy in retail, your Section 8 rentals can go ahead and cover that. Or if you have luxury properties and those can be vacant for long periods of time at a time, possibly having some Section 8 rentals, a few thousands, could help mitigate the risk of having vacancy in those luxury properties. So it is going to be a very tailor-made analysis for you based on your needs, your experience, and what you want to do. Because yet again, if there's a huge market for what you want to do and what you're doing, diversifying the risk might actually create more risk. So that's why you need to think, which is the second secret of building a diversified portfolio, is building a long-term strategy and scaling wisely, because we're not here to make a quick buck and just get the fuck out. We're here to build wealth over 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And that's the key to creating wealth. Nobody who's ever made substantial amounts of wealth and kept it have done it thinking about just becoming wealthy from one day to the next and just sending everything to hell. It's creating a long-term plan of what you're going to do, where you're going to be, where do you want to be. It's like the famous question that everybody asks: where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, you need to understand, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You need to understand, where do you see yourself in 10 years, 20 years? So one of the billionaires that I know, one of the questions I ask him is, in periods of how much time do you pan yourself? And I jokingly asked him, do you pan yourself in 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 years? And he said, panning myself in more than 20 years is unrealistic, because the world we'll live in is going to be very different in 10, 20 years from the world we're living in. So I pan myself in 20-year blocks and just keep on adding an extra year as every year passes. So plan yourself. It doesn't have to be 20 years. That's very, very tough. I personally plan myself in 70-year blocks. I'm still not in the 20 years a billionaire plans themselves. And that's the plan. So you start with what you can. Plan yourself for this year. What do you want to achieve this year? What do you want to achieve next year? And just keep on adding onto that and create your long-term investment or life plan strategy. And lastly is networking. So building relationships. You are nothing without relationships. You don't get deals without relationships. You don't get to get money without relationships. You don't get to do construction without relationships. You don't get to understand knowledge better without relationships. Yes, you can be a lone wolf, but at the end, the lonely people are the ones who will fail because we need teams to help ourselves. So one of the amazing stories that I have is there was this client of mine that needed to liquidate some assets, and at the time I did not have the money to go ahead and acquire those assets, which were at a close to 90% discount. So it was crazy. And I just go ahead and reach out to one of my friends, and I am like, hey man, there's this client of mine. He has this XYZ asset. He needs to liquidate ASAP. I know you got some cash, and it's gonna be a quick buck for you. So just go ahead and go into this. That very same day, he went ahead and took the money out, gave it to my client the next day, and they were able to do a deal where my friend was able to become very profitable. My client was able to liquidate what he needed to liquidate, and everybody was happy because I was able to make my friend some money. I know that he gave me some money. I'm very thankful for that. And my other client was also very happy because he was able to liquidate what he had and be able to keep on with his life. So that is just one of the smallest things that I could mention. So networking is really important. And then collaborating with experienced investors. You're not going to be able to tackle your first investment probably by yourself. You're probably going to need somebody who's done at least something more than you, at least a lender, at least a realtor, at least an investor, somebody in your team, at least even if it's somebody on the other side of the states. But there's always someone to help you and guide you. So to recap, what are the things that we spoke about today? We spoke about the research and the education. We spoke about the financial preparation and scaling the right way. I really encourage every single one of you guys to go ahead and get started investing, because the only way for you guys to actually go ahead and start making money is by doing it and getting started. It's like the Nike's signature phrase, just do it. You will learn. And even if you don't get to make money, you were able to learn, because nobody's going to be teaching this to you unless there's a real estate investment school nearby. But the only way for you to do it is by doing it. And just make sure that you at least break even. If you break even in the first one, in the second one, you're going to have the knowledge. It is much more expensive to go to college nowadays than to get started investing. Just don't do crazy stuff. Do your research, throw your numbers, and get started. So I really hope that you guys found this helpful. If you guys did, then I'll invite you guys to comment, like, and subscribe. Subscribe because I have a lot of more amazing content coming up. We have a 365 days planned out for you guys. Hit the notification bell so you guys can stay up to date. It's going to be a full year of education for you guys completely for free. Nobody else is doing it like this. Nobody is doing it like me. And this is all for you guys. So I would really appreciate if you guys like this video. That's going to help the algorithm. That's really going to motivate me to keep on doing a lot more videos like this for you guys. And share it with a friend so that your friend can also grow and they can also make money. And you guys can even partner up on the real estate investment deals. Because if you and your friend partner up and you guys get to bring money, time, resources, contacts together into the same deal, it's going to make the deal move a lot faster and a lot better. When you have somebody who can do the things while you cannot, and vice versa, that really is a power move right there. So I hope that you guys like it. Again, please comment, like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell so you guys can stay up to date. And I'll see you on the next one.